Good day, McVeigh, and happy Thursday. Good morning, boys and girls. Please stand to honor our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Boys and girls, you may be seated. Let's get to our birthday book. One of these days I should clean it out. Whew. Okay. So, we had no birthdays yesterday, but today, happy birthday to Christopher Sacrostano in our first grade. And our lunch today, boys and girls, let's see. We have, hot dog on a bun. Boar's head turkey and cheese, grilled cheese, and the bagel lunch. So, friends, we have a special day here today at McVeigh. We have guest reader day. How lucky are we? And wouldn't you know it, looks like we have a guest here now. Hold on, I better put my mask on. Mr. Justin, nice of you to stop by.
Hi, Mrs. Dunn. How are you?
Okay. So, can I help you?
Yeah. I love Guest Reader Day.
You do?
Love it. And I was wondering if you would let me read to McVeigh.
What do you say? McVeigh says yay. So, friends, guess what? We're going to take a break from our regularly scheduled program and go right to Mr. Justin for Guest Reader Day. Take it away, Mr. Justin.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Well, I wanted to share this story with everybody. I'm a little small on the camera here. This is a story that I actually wrote.
You did?
I did.
So you're the author of this book?
I am the author of this book.
And who was the illustrator?
I am the illustrator of this book.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Many people don't know this, but I actually do like to write and I like to draw. Most of the stuff that I write and I draw are based more on the fantasy sci-fi area, but an actual event happened here at McVeigh that made me want to write this story.
Well, I can't wait to hear the story.
Yep, this is actually a true story.
Okay.
It happened right here in McVeigh a couple of years ago.
Excellent.
And I'm going to share it with everybody.
Excellent. Let's hear it.
Okay. The name of this story is A Bird Named George. Hope everybody doesn't mind if I show my face
so
a
I
little
moved
bit.
back away, so
Yes.
You're fine.
Mrs. Dunn is more than 6 feet away. Okay, A Bird Named George by Justin Weiss. A young bird was all alone in a strange outside world he did not belong to or understand. He had lost his home and family. This world was so big and loud. The little bird was afraid.
Wow. Look at this illustration, friends. And there's the little bird. You can see the expression on the bird's face. Very, very nervous.
He saw many different kinds of birds. There were brown birds and red birds, blue birds and black birds. Their songs were beautiful but strange to him. One bird kept making a frightening squawk at him. He tried to make friends, but the birds were wary of him. He was as strange to them as they were to him. The little bird was sad.
Unbelievable illustrations, Mr. Justin.
Well, thank you. Over the horizon, the little bird heard a familiar sound. It was the sound of people, happy people. People had always taken care of him. The little bird flapped his wings as hard as he could and flew towards the sound. The little bird was excited.
Does anybody see where the bird is flying to? Let's see.
The little bird was tired from so much flying, but he found where the sound of people was coming from. He looked down and saw a small school where many children were playing in the yard. There were so many different kinds of children. Some had dark hair, some had light hair, some had blue hair. Some were skinny and some were stout. The little bird felt hopeful.
I think I recognize some of those little boys and girls.
The little bird flew down chirping and cooing, excited to make friends with the children. But they did not react at all how he expected. As he swooped down, they began to run and scream. The little bird even landed on one child's head to say hello, and the little child let out a screech. The little bird felt surprised.
I think that little boy is surprised too. Wow.
As the children ran around screaming and yelling, the little bird perched on a fence. He was startled and very tired from the whole ordeal. All he wanted was to make a friend and maybe find a new family to belong to. It was at this moment that he felt large, warm hands envelop him. They were gentle, but held him securely. The little bird then heard a deep, kind voice. "Hello, little one." It was the janitor, Mr. Justin. He had come out to see why the children were screaming. "You don't belong here, but don't be afraid. I will keep you safe," Mr. Justin spoke softly. The little bird felt nervous. Mr. Justin brought the little bird inside where it was warm. He gave him fresh water and some fruit. He even managed to scrounge up some seed. The little bird looked up at Mr. Justin, who had a warm smile and gentle eyes. "I wonder where you came from, little one," Mr. Justin said, as the little bird began to feast. He was so hungry and thirsty, he just kept eating and drinking until he could not eat or drink any more. "I think I will call you George," said Mr. Justin. The little bird felt full. That night, Mr. Justin brought George home and gave him a bath and a comfortable place to sleep. Mr. Justin was determined to find George's home and family. If he could not, he would find George a new home to belong to. Mr. Justin reached out to everyone he knew, and even people he did not know, hoping someone would know where George came from. "Don't worry, my little friend," Mr. Justin said. "We will find you a home. Until then, you'll be safe with me." George began to chirp and coo softly. The little bird felt welcome. A few days had passed. Mr. Justin had not found George's family or a new home. One day, they went to the bird doctor to make sure George was healthy and well. Mr. Justin did not know how long George had been outside in the cold and wanted to make sure that his new friend was well. The veterinarian did several tests and found that George was just fine. The little bird was relieved. Mr. Justin brought George back to the school and presented him to the very class in which he had been out on the playground the day he was found. Each of the children got a chance to see George and listen to him chirp and coo. All the children loved George's visit, especially their teacher, Miss Beckett. The little bird was happy.
Look how happy that little bird is, and how happy all the children are. I wonder who Miss Beckett is.
At the end of the day, Mr. Justin brought George back to the janitor's office. The bird can tell that his friend, Mr. Justin, was a little sad. "I wish I could find a home for you, little one," Mr. Justin said as he lightly scratched George's head. "You are a sweet bird and should have a loving family." It was in that moment that there was a knock at the door. It was Miss Beckett. "Excuse me, Mr. Justin," Miss Beckett said, smiling softly at George. "I think George is a sweet and wonderful bird. If you haven't found a home for him, I would love to welcome him into mine." Mr. Justin and the little bird felt excited. The next day, Mr. Justin brought little George over to Miss Beckett's little home. Miss Beckett was standing in the doorway smiling and welcomed them right in. Her home was warm and cozy, clean and colorful. Inside was a beautiful big bird cage with fresh water and food. There were even a few toys for George to play with. George chirped and cooed with excitement. He flew to Miss Beckett's shoulder and snuggled into her neck. Mr. Justin smiled, knowing that George had found a new home. George and Miss Beckett spent the whole rest of the day together. Miss Beckett whistled softly for him and scratched his head, and George would sing softly back at her. George had found much more than a home. He had found a family. The little bird felt loved. The end.
Wow. That was beautiful, Mr. Justin. And
Thank
I
you.
have to say, your illustrations are amazing.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Dunn. That's very
Amazing. Now, I understand you have, since this is actually a nonfiction story,
It's a
boys and girls,
nonfiction
this
story.
happened. I understand that you have a picture of who Miss Beckett is
I
and
do.
of the real George.
Well, Miss Beckett is a character that's based on McVeigh's very own Miss Hackett.
Right.
And here is a picture of the real George and Miss Hackett in Miss Hackett's lovely little home. This was the day that I brought George to her house, and George is still residing with Miss Hackett right now, and they have a wonderful little family.
That
George is
is
very,
wonderful.
very happy, and Miss Beckett, or Miss Hackett, is also very happy.
Wow. Mr. Justin, I'm so glad you stopped by for Guest Reader
Well,
Day.
thank you for having me.
This
I
is
think
absolutely
awesome.
beautiful. Maybe someday you'll publish this book and we can all get a copy.
Well,
Wouldn't
we'll
that be
see,
cool?
hopefully.
All right.
Hopefully. Thank you, Miss Dunn.
Thank you
and
very
thank you,
much.
everybody. I'll see you around the
All
building.
right. So I'm going to turn this up. Look how cool that is, boys and girls.
So we had a very special guest for Guest Reader Day. I'm going to take this down because I came near Mr. Justin. Now he just walked away. How cool is that? He's an author. And what did he do? He had something happen in his life, something very cool that he wanted to share with others. He wrote about it, did the illustrations. Now, I have to say, I could not create the kinds of illustrations that Mr. Justin did. So if you're like me, you might want to find somebody else to illustrate for you, or maybe you can do both. Many of you have excellent skills in art, but everyone can be an author. And that was a beautiful story. Thank you very much for sharing and joining us on Guest Reader Day, Mr. Justin. All right, so boys and girls, our announcements at this point are pretty long, so I'm going to skip what I would normally cover, and I'll go to that tomorrow. So our learning about Europe, also our Get Smart project. So instead, I'm just going to end with our Mighty Kind moment of the day. Let's get our drum roll. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so today's Mighty Kind moment of the day is coming from, believe it or not, a store nearby. Our Mighty Kind moment of the day is coming from Marshall's. Does anybody know that store? Well, they are donating to us lots and lots of masks for children that need masks. And the reason why that's so mighty kind is that Marshall's could sell those masks and make money, but instead they're giving them to us. And that is mighty kind. So sometimes in life, we have to make decisions. So for example, if you had a bicycle and somebody else needed one, would you give it to them? Or would you try to sell it to somebody else who has money? So that's the decision that they made, and they've decided to give them to us instead of selling them to somebody else. So mighty kind thank you to Marshall's for that wonderful donation. And boys and girls, be thinking about that. When you have a situation where there are two options, which one is the kindest? Choose that one. Why? Because we're mighty minds. Not only that, we're mighty kind, mighty minds, and every day is a great day to get smart and be kind to both each other and the earth. Let's have a wonderful day.